Hi there, and welcome to episode number 4 of Jake's Jump Off with me, Jake Donnelly. I mentioned at the end of episode 3 that I would try to make things a little bit more jovial for episode 4, and that's exactly what I'm going to do here today. Now, a running theme of this show is that you can take one look at my t-shirt and try to figure out what exactly it is I'm going to talk about for the next 10 minutes. So, let's take a look. Boston B, USA flag. Boston Red Sox B, the USA part because it was a July 4th promotion. So I just love this shirt. Nothing about necessarily July 4th or America. It's just the baseball aspect. And that is what I'm going to talk about here for episode number 4. So why? Well, yesterday, Armando Galarraga, and if that name doesn't sound familiar, it's because that's the guy whose perfect game was stolen from him by a terrible call from umpire Jim Joyce, who was umpiring first base at the end of the almost perfect game from Armando Galarraga all the way back in 2010. So Galarraga, he comes out yesterday and he says that I want Major League Baseball to retroactively give me my perfect game that was stolen from me by Jim Joyce 10 years ago. Normally, I would hear something like this and laugh it off. You can't go back and change the results of games. You can't say that something is unfair without, coming off sounding like you're a baby. However, this is a unique situation. The Armando Galarraga perfect game is one of my favorite moments in sports. And there's a couple of different reasons for that. Mostly because of how the main actors in the blown call acted immediately after, and then even 24 hours after this bad call by Jim Joyce. First off, Jim Joyce, he came out and he said to everybody that would listen on the field, I had the play as safe. Not that Galarraga, even though it was an awkward 3-1 flip, first baseman to pitcher flip, even though Galarraga was awkward with his footwork, and it may have looked like, at first glance, that Galarraga had missed the bag, everybody thought that that was why Jim Joyce called the play safe. And if you haven't seen the play, go back, take some time, watch, and then come back. That's the reason everybody thought that Jim Joyce called the runner safe. But it turns out is that Joyce thought the runner was safe because he beat the play. He botched it. Jim Joyce completely botched it. He said so in a post-game press conference. A post-game press conference with a Major League Baseball umpire. That is almost something you never see. And yet, Joyce was man enough to allow the reporters to come in and ask him in a 6+ minute interview. And if you had to go back to watch the play that I'm talking about, please, I implore you, watch the press conference with Jim Joyce. It is 6 minutes of agony. It is 6 minutes of a man's heart breaking over and over and over again. A lot of people, when they see referees and they see umpires, they just see pinstripes or they just see a guy wearing a blue or black shirt. That's it. Maybe he's got a mask on, maybe not. They don't see him or them or her as people. But these are people. In fact, these are the people that are the best at their profession in the entire world. So you have this guy, Jim Joyce, and in his most pivotal moment, in his most pivotal professional moment, he screws the pooch. Badly. In front of everybody. In front of fans, in front of teams, in front of national television. He screws it. It is played over and over and over again. After the game, immediately after the game, when the Detroit Tigers all came up and started yelling at Jim Joyce, he still thought that he was correct. When Smoking Jim Leland went up and started yelling at him, probably smelling like 2 packs of cigarettes, Joyce thought he had made the right call. And then, after the game, he saw the replay and realized to his utter horror how badly he had messed it up. He had messed it up both ways that you could look at it. He didn't mess it up, as I mentioned, because he thought that Galarraga had missed the bag. He messed it up in a way that was almost inexcusable. And that is Jim Joyce, says how he messed it up was inexcusable. And over those 6 minutes in that post-game press conference, it is agonizing to watch. So now I ask you to do something else. Go and look at Armando Galarraga's press conference after the near perfect game and listen to what he says and see how much of a man he is. Jim Joyce stood there and took it like a man. Everybody wanted to line up and punch Joyce in the face over and over and over again. And he took it. Whack, 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 gut shot, gut shot. He took everything that everybody gave to him. And what was his reward? He had to ump home plate the next day. And Jim Leyland, because he had been in the game for so long, and because he had respected the game for so long, and this is a guy that I've actually had a couple of conversations with. He's a great man, at least in my conversations with him. He does smell like cigarettes, though. He sends Armando Galarraga out to exchange the lineups with Jim Joyce there as the home plate umpire, and you can see Joyce is breaking down in tears. It is, at one time, the saddest and happiest I have been to watch something occur on a baseball diamond. Armando Galarraga tells him he doesn't blame Jim Joyce. He forgives him for the mistake because we're all human. And Joyce, at that point in time, you can see how he almost didn't feel as if he deserved that forgiveness because he took something from Armando Galarraga that Galarraga deserved. Armando Galarraga threw a perfect game. He had 27 up, 27 down in order. Not just that, but he actually got the 27th out. Everybody knew that the runner was out at first base for out number 27. That was a perfect game. And so Joyce was breaking down as Galarraga was kind of trying to console him in that next day's lineup card exchange. But now, 10 years later, Galarraga is asking that Major League Baseball overturn, rectify the situation. And while I don't like going back and retroactively changing things, this is actually a situation where Major League Baseball should. That was a perfect game by Armando Galarraga. A perfect game consists of facing 27 batters and retiring them all in order. Number 27 was out. 1 through 26, out. Odd to number 26. I was going to say ad infinitum, but that's actually not true because it's got to stop at number 26. But he got all 27 outs in order. A regular season game, not a postseason game. And even if it was a postseason game, Major League Baseball should change it because the result of the game doesn't matter. He got the next out. The Tigers won the game. The Tigers should have won the game without anybody from the opposing team getting on base. That is what should have happened. A couple years later, Major League Baseball instituted replay. And if there was replay, it would have been 27 up, 27 down. This isn't, by the way, 1985 Game 6 when Don Denkinger blew the call at first base. No, that's absolutely not the case because that was the first out of the bottom of the ninth inning. And while Denkinger's missed call did allow the St. Louis Cardinals to eventually blow the game, and eventually Game 7, where they got molly-whooped 11-0. People forget about that aspect, the same way that, unfortunately, everybody forgets how the Boston Red Sox had a chance to the next season in the 1986 World Series win Game 7. It wasn't the fault of Bill Buckner. Yeah, Bill Buckner had the ball go through his legs, but the game was already tied at that point, and the Red Sox could have gone on and won Game 7. They were ahead in Game 7. The St. Louis Cardinals, They were ahead in Game 6, lost that game, even though there was only a runner on first base and nobody was out. That runner does not score more than 50% of the time. No, it's fewer, it's less than 50% of the time. Totally different scenario than the Armando Galarraga, Jim Joyce controversy at the end of the Armando Galarraga perfect game. This is, in fact, something that Major League Baseball should do. Armando Galarraga, since the day that happened, everyone has agreed that Armando Galarraga deserved to have that be called a perfect game. Why? Because it was a perfect game. He faced 27 batters. He retired 27 batters in a row. That's a perfect game. Now, while a lot of people don't like the idea of opening up a Pandora's box, this situation might not happen again. And in fact, this situation won't happen again because there is, in fact, replay. It's not like we're going back into the 1930s and rectifying something. I hate that. I want, if you're going to fix something, you do it when somebody can appreciate it, when somebody can experience the fact that you have gone back and rectified the situation, like Major League Baseball eventually did with Roger Maris, and the fact that his home run did break Babe Ruth's record, even though Roger Maris had a couple of extra games to him. This is something entirely different. This is something Major League Baseball should do. They should go back and say Armando Galarraga was deserving of a perfect game because he faced 27 batters in a row and retired them all in order. That's a perfect game. That's exactly what baseball is. He deserves it. Everybody deserves it. And the person that deserves it more than anybody else, besides Armando Galarraga, is Jim Joyce. If you can fix this situation and make it whole for Armando Galarraga, for baseball, but more importantly, for Jim Joyce, go ahead and do that. You can make the world a better place. I kid you not. You can make the world a better place, Rob Manfred and Major League Baseball, if you give Armando Galarraga his perfect game. So do it. It would be the perfect move. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to episode number 4 of Jake's Jump Off with me, Jake Donnelly. Armando Galarraga's perfect game. Does he deserve it? Oh, yes, he does. See you out there next time, folks, for episode number 5. I have no idea what it's going to be, but I enjoy doing this, and I hope you enjoy listening to it. See ya.